Do you frequently feel like your eyes are dry, stinging, or like there are tiny dust particles lodged in them? Many people describe their eyes as being coated in a fine layer of sand, causing grittiness and aching throughout the day. As the day progresses, the dry sensation becomes more pronounced, forcing them to blink rapidly, rub their eyes constantly, or reach for their familiar eye drop bottle for relief. But that relief only lasts for a few minutes. When reading the newspaper, looking at a computer screen, or watching TV, the text and images become blurry, making them stop due to eye strain and burning. These are very typical signs of chronic dry eye syndrome, especially common in people over 60. This condition occurs when the natural tear volume is insufficient or when the composition of the tear film is unbalanced. The consequence is that the ocular surface is no longer properly lubricated, leading to irritation, burning, and temporary visual reduction. The eyes become sensitive to wind smoke, bright light, and air-conditioned environments. Many people feel like they are looking through a hazy fog and have to squint to see more clearly. The first reaction is often to seek out over-the-counter eye drops or artificial tears. However, these are only temporary fixes because they cannot restore the function of the lacrimal gland. The core problem lies in the natural weakening of the tear secretion system due to age and accompanying factors such as chronic illnesses, medications, or dry, cold living environments. When the lacrimal gland functions poorly, the natural protective layer on the cornea gradually thins, causing instability on the eye surface. The aging body also faces many other factors that contribute to dry eyes. Medications for diabetes, hypertension, depression, or allergies can all reduce tear production. Coupled with long exposure to electronic screens, the use of fans, air conditioning, or dry air during cold seasons, the condition only worsens. Statistics show that 1 in 3 people over 60 experiences dry eye symptoms at various levels, and if not addressed early, it can lead to keratitis or damage to the ocular surface. The good news is that it's possible to control and support better lacrimal gland function through nutrition and natural care. Many studies have proven that supplementing with foods rich in omega-3s, vitamins A, C, E, and antioxidants helps improve moisture and reduce inflammation for the eyes. These nutrients not only nourish the lacrimal gland from within, but also help the tear film become more stable and durable over time. In the next section, I will share 4 specific fruits that have been proven to support tear film regeneration and reduce the sensation of dryness and irritation for older adults. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please subscribe so you don't miss out on science-backed guides for protecting vision and keeping your eyes healthy after 60. Please understand that you are absolutely not facing this challenge alone, and dry eyes do not necessarily have to be your permanent reality. Let me illustrate what can truly be achieved. Let's begin with a surprisingly sweet and effective fruit: grapes. Most people view grapes merely as a snack or a wine ingredient, but they hold a hidden power that is exceptionally good for dry and aging eyes. Grapes, the vascular healer for tear production. Grapes, especially the dark red and purple varieties, are one of the fruits with the highest biological value for eye health. Contained within their thin skins is a precious compound called resveratrol, a powerful antioxidant that reduces low-grade inflammation in blood vessel walls. When vessel walls are less inflamed, platelets are less sticky, and vessels are less hardened. Blood flows more easily to the furthest tissues, especially the eyes, which have millions of tiny capillaries. When blood flows easily, the lacrimal glands receive sufficient oxygen and essential nutrients to reactivate, helping to increase natural tear secretion. Without the need for artificial tears, the body self-produces biological moisture that soothes and stabilizes the eye surface. Simultaneously, grapes also provide vitamin A, an essential component for the tear film, and corneal epithelial cells, which are responsible for retaining moisture and protecting against prolonged dryness. From a medicinal standpoint, resveratrol in grapes offers 5 notable mechanisms of action. First, it protects the retina by blocking free radicals from destroying visual cells and slowing down age-related macular degeneration (AMD), the leading cause of blindness in older adults. It also inhibits the VEGF protein, the factor that causes abnormal blood vessel growth in the retina, thereby preventing complications in diabetic patients with diabetic retinopathy. Second, grapes help reduce dry eyes and restore the lacrimal gland due to their content of omega-6 vitamin E and natural water, supporting the balance of the protective lipid layer. Resveratrol boosts blood circulation to the lacrimal gland, helping the eyes maintain moisture and reducing the stinging, gritty feeling during prolonged screen time. Clinical studies show that people who ate grapes daily for 12 weeks had 25% higher corneal moisture compared to the non-grape group. Third, grapes contain over 160 types of polyphenols, including resveratrol, quercetin, and catechine, which neutralize free radicals, slowing down cataracts and retinal aging. This protects the DNA of visual cells, reducing the rate of vision blurring, especially in people with oxidative stress or advanced age. Fourth, the polyphenols and potassium in grapes help improve microblood circulation. They dilate vessels, increasing blood flow to the tiny capillaries that nourish the retina and optic nerve, preventing vasoconstriction due to stress or high blood pressure factors that cause temporary vision loss. This benefit is especially important for those with hypertension or diabetes. Fifth, resveratrol also protects the optic nerve from premature death due to oxidative stress, helping to prevent glaucoma, the second leading cause of blindness globally. It acts as a neuronal shield, maintaining stable image signal transmission. In addition, vitamin A, lutein, and zeaxanthin in grapes help the retina adapt to light changes, reducing strain blurring or flashing when moving from light to dark, and vice versa, very beneficial for night drivers and those working under artificial light. Grapeseed extract also has natural antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effects, helping to reduce redness, itching, and eyelid swelling in conjunctivitis due to allergies or dust. Furthermore, due to their tissue-restoring properties, the polyphenols in grapes aid recovery after eye surgery, increase the strength of vessel walls, and reduce fluid leakage within the eye. Purple grapes are particularly rich in anthocyanins pigments that enhance night vision by activating rod cells in the retina, similar to the effect of blueberries, but with better absorption. Therefore, adding a small cup of dark-colored grapes daily is a simple way to protect your eyes from dryness, fatigue, and premature degeneration. And this isn't just theoretical speculation. I want to share the experience of Margaret, a 68-year-old patient of mine in Nebraska. For the past year, she had struggled with intense, dry, and itchy eyes, making her mornings unbearable. She loved doing puzzles and crosswords, but as she told me, I can't concentrate for 10 minutes before my eyes feel like they're burning up. She had tried regular eye drops, which provided temporary relief for an hour or two, after which the burning sensation would immediately recur. So I asked her a simple question: have you ever thought about integrating food as an integral part of your solution? She laughed at first, but I suggested she start incorporating 1 cup of dark-colored grapes into her daily diet, ideally with breakfast or as an afternoon snack. 3 weeks after our conversation, she returned and said something I'll never forget. "I don't know what's in those grapes, but my eyes don't sting when I pull the curtains open in the morning anymore." This isn't mystical magic, it's the profound impact of proper nutrition. When you give your body the right resources like antioxidants and vitamin A, the healing process naturally begins from the inside. Now, if you're considering purchasing grapes, prioritize red and purple grapes as they have the highest resveratrol content. Wash them well, eat them fresh, and use them in moderation. With a low glycemic index, grapes are completely safe for those monitoring blood sugar. You can mix them into oatmeal unsweetened yogurt or use them as an afternoon snack. 1 cup per day is enough to provide essential nutrients for healthy eyes. In the next section, I will introduce a tropical fruit that has the ability to reduce eye inflammation through a mechanism that no eye drop can achieve. Stay tuned. Dry, stinging, itchy eyes are often not just due to a lack of surface moisture. In many cases, low-grade chronic inflammation in the lacrimal gland and eyelid margin is the root cause. The meibomian glands become easily blocked, and the tear film becomes unstable. Even though the body still produces tears, the overly active inflammatory system degrades tear quality, causing them to evaporate quickly. Therefore, the strategy for improvement needs to reduce inflammation, optimize microcirculation, increase antioxidant nutrients, and control hydration. Pineapple fits exactly those goals. Pineapple is rich in bromelain, an extremely special active compound, which is both a natural digestive enzyme and a powerful anti-inflammatory agent, so much so that it is likened to the doctor hidden inside the pineapple. Unlike some anti-inflammatory drugs that carry risks of stomach irritation or effects on blood pressure, bromelain is well tolerated at food-grade doses and comes with the benefit of hydration. 10 detailed benefits of pineapple for the eyes. Reduces inflammation and swelling around the eyes. Anti-inflammatory action. The bromelain in pineapple is a powerful natural anti-inflammatory enzyme. It works by inhibiting the COX-2 enzyme and inflammatory mediators like bradykinin and prostaglandins. This mechanism helps to reduce eyelid swelling eye bags and increase fluid circulation around the eye socket. Aid in reducing conjunctivitis, uveitis, or allergic eyelid swelling, soothing symptoms of red eyes and mild pain. 2. Improves blood circulation to the eyes. Enhanced blood circulation. Pineapple contains a combination of vitamin C, bromelain, and manganese, which help maintain the elasticity of blood vessel walls and improve blood circulation. This ensures that blood is pumped to nourish the retina and optic nerve, helping to reduce the risk of microvascular ischemia, a common cause of chronic eye fatigue and dry eyes. Steady blood flow also supports the lacrimal gland to function more effectively, promoting the natural production of tears. 3. Protects the retina from oxidative damage. Antioxidant protection. Pineapple is rich in antioxidants, including vitamin C, beta-carotene, and flavonoids. These substances neutralize harmful free radicals, playing a key role in protecting the eye structure. Specifically, vitamin C activates the glutathione reductase enzyme, protecting retinal cells from DNA damage. This helps to reduce the risk of age-related macular degeneration (AMD). Protect retinal blood vessels, especially important for those with diabetes or high blood pressure. 4. Supports the optic nerve and reduces eye strain. Ocular nerve support, manganese, and vitamin B6 in pineapple are essential for neural energy metabolism. They help optic nerve cells transmit signals faster, reducing symptoms like blurring or flashing when working intensely. Bromelain also helps reduce optic nerve inflammation in chronic eye conditions. 5. Reduces the risk of cataracts. Cataract prevention research indicates that vitamin C and flavonoids in pineapple can slow the progression of cataracts, especially in older adults. The mechanism is to inhibit the oxidation of proteins in the lens, helping to maintain the eye's clarity. Synergistic effect. When pineapple is combined with resveratrol-rich foods like red grapes, the anti-cataract effect can be significantly enhanced. 6. Rapid recovery. After surgery or inflammation. Post-surgical recovery. Due to its ability to reduce swelling, bruising, and promote tissue regeneration, bromelain in pineapple is often used to aid recovery after eye surgery, such as LASIK blepharoplasty or severe conjunctivitis treatment. Helps rapidly resolve inflammatory fluid and reduce soft tissue edema around the eye socket. 7. Eye hydration and reduced dryness. Hydration and lubrication. Pineapple is nearly 90% water and rich in the mineral potassium. This water and mineral content helps maintain electrolyte balance for the lacrimal gland and the entire tear system. Increases corneal surface moisture, reducing the sensation of stinging grittiness and fatigue caused by long exposure to blue light computers, electronic devices. 8. Soothing and brightening. The skin around the eyes. Periorbital skin health vitamin C and bromelain help increase collagen production, enhancing elasticity and brightening the delicate skin around the eyes, thereby minimizing dark circles and fine wrinkles. 9. Prevents eye damage from diabetes. Diabetic retinopathy protection. Bromelain and vitamin C help reduce microvascular inflammation and prevent glycation, the reaction where sugar sticks to proteins in the eye. This is extremely important in protecting the retina and optic nerve from diabetic retinopathy complications. 10. Supports glaucoma prevention. Glaucoma support. Pineapple can help increase the circulation of fluid in the eye. Aqueous humor, supporting the balance of intraocular pressure. Antioxidants minimize damage to optic nerve cells caused by high pressure, a factor associated with glaucoma. To optimize the benefits, always prioritize fresh pineapple over canned, as canned pineapple is often soaked in syrup and has reduced bromelain content. Frozen pineapple is an acceptable alternative. Important note: due to its natural acidity, pineapple should always be eaten with meals, and never on an empty stomach, especially for older adults with sensitive digestive systems. Just a few slices of fresh pineapple daily can significantly support the process of soothing inflammation, helping the eyes regain the ability to produce natural tears. If bromelain is likened to the doctor hidden inside the pineapple, then the vitamin C, carotenoids, and flavonoids in an orange are the eye's natural source of light. After inflammation is soothed by bromelain, the eyes need a further step: blood vessel regeneration, clarification of eye fluids, and restoration of optic nerve cell energy. That is the special role of the orange, a fruit rich in vitamin C, carotenoids, flavonoids, and natural pure water. More than just a morning drink, the orange is a vitamin dose for the eyes, nourishing them from the tiny capillaries all the way to the macula, the center of vision. Orange, the macular and vascular builder, strengthens vessel walls and nourishes the retina with vitamin C. The orange is the most abundant source of vitamin C in nature, which helps increase the synthesis of collagen type IV, the structural foundation of the retinal vessel walls. The tiny fragile blood vessels in the eyes, prone to breaking, are mended fiber by fiber with new collagen. As a result, the retina receives enough blood oxygen and energy, significantly reducing the occurrence of tiny red spots or transient blurring due to weak microvessels. For people with diabetes or high blood pressure, vitamin C in oranges is a biological shield that prevents retinal blood vessels from rupturing, reducing the complication of fundus hemorrhage, a cause of vision loss in older adults. Prevents cataracts. Keeping eyes crystal clear. The lens is a living crystal, transparent thanks to the stability of special proteins. However, over time, blue light UV rays and high blood sugar will oxidize these proteins, causing them to aggregate and become cloudy. Vitamin C in oranges neutralizes free radicals and simultaneously regenerates glutathione, the lens-protecting substance. Studies show that people who eat at least one orange daily have a 30 to 40% lower risk of cataracts compared to those who eat less citrus fruit. Oranges, thanks to the combination of vitamin C and the flavonoid hesperidin, help the lens remain clear, vision bright and light reflection more accurate, protects the macula, and prevents retinal degeneration. The center of the retina, the macula, is where millions of photoreceptor cells are concentrated. Oranges provide lutein and zeaxanthin, two yellow-orange carotenoids that absorb high-energy blue light, a cause of retinal cell death. They act as natural light filters, protecting the retina from damage caused by phone screens, sunlight, or LED lamps. When combined with vitamin C, these two substances double the antioxidant effectiveness, helping the older person's eyes age slower, making central vision clearer and reducing the risk of macular blindness. Corneal hydration and lacrimal gland restoration. Nearly 90% of an orange's content is water-rich in potassium, magnesium, and vitamin C, a trio that helps balance electrolytes and maintain surface corneal moisture. Oranges help the lacrimal gland secrete fluid, stably soothing the sensation of stinging grittiness and dry fatigue from computer work or lack of sleep. More than just cooling, vitamin C also fights meibomian gland inflammation, helping the lipid layer in the tears to be thicker and more stable, reducing evaporation. In other words, a glass of fresh orange juice every morning is a natural moisturizer for the eyes from the inside out. Comprehensive antioxidant action protecting visual cells. Oranges contain over 170 plant compounds, including 60 flavonoids and 80 polyphenols. These compounds neutralize free radicals, the silent killers that cause retinal cell degeneration. Specifically, naringenin and hesperidin in oranges are not only antioxidative, but also increase the cell's ability to utilize vitamin C, creating a dual synergistic effect. Free radicals are cleared, retinal cells are regenerated, the gaze becomes clear and resilient. Boosts energy for the optic nerve. The optic nerve is the image transmission cable from the retina to the brain. Oranges contain vitamin B6, folate, and thiamine, helping nerve cells generate energy, ATP, faster. As a result, light signals transmit clearly and accurately, reducing blurring and slow reactions when looking from bright to dark. For older adults or those working under high stress, this is a natural source of recovery for the visual nervous system. Reduces inflammation and prevents diabetic retinopathy. The flavonoids hesperidin and naringenin in oranges have an anti-microvascular inflammation effect, inhibiting the aldose reductase enzyme, a cause of retinal edema and bleeding in diabetic patients. Oranges are not only sweet, but also protect the retinal capillary system from damage due to high blood sugar, helping diabetics maintain stable vision for longer. Helps eyes adapt better to light. By containing beta-carotene, oranges provide the precursor to vitamin A, which helps regenerate rhodopsin, the visual pigment that aids in seeing in the dark. As a result, eyes adapt faster when transitioning from light to dark, reducing dazzling, supporting night vision, and protecting drivers and older adults from light accommodation disorders. Brightens and rejuvenates the skin around the eyes. Not just internally, oranges also beautify externally. Vitamin C stimulates collagen and elastin synthesis, helping the skin around the eyes become smooth, bright and healthy, reducing wrinkles and dark circles. Citric acid in oranges gently exfoliates dead skin cells, helping the under eye area look fresh and bright, a safer natural choice than chemical-containing whitening creams. Enhances immunity and recovery. After inflammation. Every cell in the eye is influenced by the immune system. Vitamin C helps increase white blood cell activity, destroying bacteria and viruses in the conjunctiva. When combined with pineapple rich in bromelain, the effect of reducing inflammation, tissue regeneration, microcirculation is doubled. Therefore, the pineapple-orange duo is not just a delicious drink, but also a natural protocol that helps the eyes resist inflammation, combat dryness, and stay bright for a long time. In the body, the eyes are the most delicate, yet also the most honest place. As soon as blood vessels are blocked, there is mild inflammation or oxidative stress. Vision will immediately reflect it. The orange is a gentle yet profound revitalizing dose. It doesn't intervene aggressively like medication, but nourishes from the root day by day. One fresh orange every morning, a glass of unsweetened orange juice after a meal. Simple yet sufficient to keep eyes bright vessels, clear optic nerves resilient, and the tear film stable. Strawberries represent one of the most potent fruits you can consume when your goal is to restore comfort to dry and irritated eyes. Most people categorize strawberries as a mere indulgence, something to dip in chocolate or incorporate into desserts. Yet in reality, they are jam-packed with the precise nutrients your eyes truly crave, especially as you age gracefully. Firstly, much like oranges, strawberries are incredibly rich in vitamin C. In fact, they contain more vitamin C per cup than oranges do. This powerful vitamin C content helps your body preserve vital collagen structures within the eye, which are exactly what are responsible for maintaining the health of your tear ducts and ensuring the stability of your tear film. But what truly sets strawberries apart is their abundant content of anthocyanins. These are the deep red pigments that give the berry its vibrant characteristic color. These compounds act as formidable antioxidants. They actively combat oxidative stress, effectively reducing inflammation and providing protection to the tiny blood vessels surrounding your eyes, preventing their weakening. As oxidative damage accumulates, which is common after age 60, your eyes slowly lose their ability to retain adequate moisture. The tear film consequently becomes unstable. You find yourself blinking more frequently, yet your eyes still feel gritty and uncomfortable. Anthocyanins play a pivotal role in reversing this detrimental process. They don't just reduce existing damage, they actively rebuild the optimal environment that healthy eyes require. I vividly remember Irene, a 70-year-old retired school teacher who used to love gardening. She came to me one day, eyes-watering, saying, "I can't even plant my tomatoes without my eyes getting bloodshot. They sting and I feel like I'm crying, but there are absolutely no tears." I reviewed her dietary habits closely. She wasn't eating many brightly colored fruits, and certainly no berries. So we made a small adjustment: 1 cup of strawberries 5 days a week, whether frozen or fresh, whichever was easiest for her to source. 3 weeks after our conversation, she called me and shared something truly beautiful. "I was back in the garden today. The wind was blowing, and for the first time in months, my eyes did not scream at me. That my dear patient is the quiet, inherent power of nature. It doesn't proclaim, it heals." Strawberries are incredibly easy to integrate into your daily routine. Simply add them to a bowl of oatmeal, blend them into a refreshing smoothie, or simply enjoy them after dinner. If they are out of season, frozen strawberries are equally beneficial and often more economical. Just ensure you are choosing plain strawberries, not those packed in syrup or with added sugar. Keep it simple. Keep it pure. Half a cup to a cup daily is sufficient to begin observing noticeable improvements, not necessarily in your visual acuity, but in the overall comfort of your eyes. They will feel less gritty, less tired, and more soothed. Because sometimes all your eyes truly ask for is that you invest a little more care and attention into what you put on your plate. Now that you are familiar with these beneficial fruits, let's move from knowledge to practical application. Because what truly matters is not just knowing what works, it's the practical implementation of these practices in a way that is both simple and sustainable. Simple 3-step strategy for daily eye comfort. For eyes that are constantly dry and aching, you don't need a complicated or fancy routine. What you truly need is unwavering consistency. Morning Power-Up. Start your morning with a fresh orange or a cup of sliced strawberries. You can enjoy them independently or incorporate them into a bowl of oatmeal or yogurt. This small habit serves to deliver a potent dose of vitamin C and powerful antioxidants, right when your body is most receptive to them first thing in the day. Afternoon Soother. In the afternoon, the time when your eyes often feel the most fatigued and dry, reach for a handful of grapes. About a cup of dark red or purple grapes works wonderfully. They are convenient to carry gentle on your digestive system and provide resveratrol to boost blood flow to the eyes and gently naturally reduce internal inflammation. Mealtime Mediator. With your lunch or dinner, make sure to include a few slices of pineapple, fresh or frozen. About half a cup to a cup is ideal. Ensure, however, that you eat it with a meal, not on an empty stomach, especially if you are sensitive to acid. The bromelain in pineapple aids in the healing of delicate tissues and helps to soothe irritation around the lacrimal gland. Now you might be thinking, do I have to eat all 4 fruits every day? Absolutely not. Start modestly. Choose 2 fruits per day and rotate them according to your preference. Some days it might be strawberries and grapes. Other days, perhaps pineapple and orange. The most critical aspect is your consistent adherence to this habit, day in and day out. Some people observe improvements in how their eyes feel within just 1 week. For others, it might take 3 or 4 weeks to experience true comfort, and that is perfectly okay. Healing is a delicate, gradual process, but it will manifest if you maintain consistency. In conjunction with incorporating these fruits, there are a few daily habits that can significantly contribute to your well-being. Drinking enough water throughout the day actively supports your eyes in maintaining a healthy tear film. If you live in an arid climate or frequently use heating or air conditioning, running a small humidifier in your sleeping environment can drastically reduce overnight dry eyes. Wearing sunglasses outdoors provides essential protection for your eyes against wind and sun, both of which can exacerbate dryness. And if you spend significant time on your computer or mobile phone, remember to periodically look away every 20 minutes and focus on a distant object to reduce visual strain. But above all, please don't overthink it. You don't need countless products or a prescription to begin the healing process. Sometimes the most effective solution is already available right in your kitchen. When you provide your body with the proper nourishment, a few simple fruits, a little care, and consistent patience, your eyes will recall how to restore themselves naturally, gradually, and sustainably. You are not destined to navigate life through a perpetual squint. You are not destined to give up the pleasure of reading, stop enjoying the beauty of the sunrise, or avoid favorite family photo albums simply because your eyes are stinging, itching, or feel like they are coated in sand. That is not the inevitable trajectory of aging. That is your body quietly but urgently asking for help and finally receiving it. Grapes, pineapple, oranges, strawberries, they are not miracle elixirs. They are not the latest trendy superfoods that come with empty guarantees. They are practical, wholesome, natural gifts packed abundantly with the exact nutrients your eyes crave. And here is the truly beautiful truth. No matter how long you have struggled with dry eyes, it is absolutely not too late. Your body still possesses the incredible ability to respond. Your lacrimal glands can still get back to business, and your comfort, the clarity of your vision, and your daily joy, all of it can still return. All it takes is consistency and a level of trust, and something as fundamental as the dietary choices you make. I have witnessed it happen countless times. Older adults who were resigned to never finding relief are finally reading bedtime stories to their grandchildren again. They are finally enjoying outdoor strolls without needing to constantly wear sunglasses. They are finally able to watch movies without instinctively reaching for eye drops every 10 minutes. And that, my friend, is exactly what I wish for you too, because you absolutely deserve to perceive the world clearly, not just with your eyes, but with the profound peace of mind that comes from knowing your health is within your grasp.